Okay, guys, we got Myron Gaines. Again, another video came out. This was like the full version of Myron Gaines, Tim Pool, Tim Cast. I don't know what his name is. He makes some stupid arguments about U.S. foreign policy being controlled by Israel. And he's even suggesting, guys, that we pick and choose when we want to use the First Amendment. Uh-oh. All right, let's get into this video.
They kind of do, though, right? And there's case law out there that allows people that are foreign nationals to have, politically protected speech. And again, she was here legally. She came here. She's a student visa. Again, I don't agree with a lot of these liberals.
We can revoke their visa for whatever reason. The INA literally,
but
the U.S. the Secretary of State has unilateral authority under the INA to revoke any visa at any time at their own discretion.
Since how long has that been going on?
17 something. I guess.
Yeah, he's using he's using the statute under 237 to deport them because it makes it harder for him to, as Secretary of State, to run foreign policy. That's like the statute they're using. And look, if that's what he wants to try to use, you can make the argument that that is completely antithetical to the First Amendment because there is case law out there that shows that, foreign nationals, Bridges versus Wixon, if I'm not mistaken, people could look that up. Very similar case where someone who was a communist or alleged to be a communist was protected. They were a green card holder. They were protected from being deported because of their political speech. And I would argue, you can make the similarity because communism back then was what terrorism is today, which is what they're trying to use, that she was a Hamas supporter, even though she didn't mention Hamas at all in her op-ed.
Right. They've been saying that these people are aligned with Hamas. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're just jumping to any conclusion.
You're critical of Israel. Say they're critical of Israel. They keep saying anti-Semitism. No, you're critical of Israel.
Yeah.
But, so I understand what you're saying about selective enforcement. I still just... You
just have an issue overall with people, whether it's anti-Semitism or whatever. Your thing is you just don't like them coming in and being able to say whatever they want to say as guests.
Well, it makes
That's
me
your
think
argument,
of the Japanese internment camps in World War II.
Let's
see your perspective.
So hold on. Let's clarify this.
Yeah, sure.
There are certain things you don't do as a guest. Right.
Sure.
So if I lived in a house with a bunch of roommates and we were arguing over the dishes and who was supposed to be doing them, well, we all live here. We all pitch in. We're all paying rent. It's our problem to deal with. If some dude showed up and then every day, he's now sleeping on the couch. Okay, I don't know. We let him crash here, and now he's causing problems. He's basically yelling about. He's getting involved in the debate and the argument, and I'm like, dude, leave. You're a guest in this place. We can deport whoever we want. I believe that we should be focused on American interests, not Ukraine's interests, not Afghanistan, not Israel, not Sudan, not Taiwan, not Pakistan or India, not Tibet, whatever. Okay? Yeah. We should secure our borders. We have to deal with this population crisis that we got. That means we need Americans to start focusing on American tradition, rebuilding our culture. And so if people come here...
But what's more American than free speech, Tim? That's my only pushback to that, where I see your perspective, but what the rule that our guest is violating is the rule that the House is built upon, which is freedom of speech. It was our First Amendment. So my thing is, though I understand your perspective, I think her exercising that right, which is what we broadcast to everyone, which makes us better than everybody else, I think that's pretty egregious.
There are rules in this country for people who are here. We extend certain rights in certain circumstances, and there are different rules for people who are guests and on visas, such as due process for an American citizen involves a jury trial. Due process for a non-citizen does not often involve a jury trial. We don't go, hold on. The right to a speedy trial is in the Constitution. It is the bedrock of what it means to be American. Okay, then we're going to give every illegal immigrant a jury trial. No, we're not going to do that. If you are here to, I'll just put it this way, okay? I don't want to be funding Israel. I don't want to be involved in that conflict. Sure. I don't want to be involved in Ukraine. My issue is someone showed up to my house and started yelling at me about what I should be doing, and I said, get the out of my house.
I think, but here's the thing. They're not even complaining about your house. They're complaining about your neighbor who you're friends with. And that's my problem. That's what Israel, to just make it more analogous.
They're complaining about what we're doing with an ally. And it's not their business. And the problem is, if we don't set a precedent on that, then anytime we have an adversary, there are people in the United States who are Iranian.
But this is a slippery slope that can lead us to problems in the future, though.
We let Iranians come into this country. And imagine, you see what happens in Europe, okay? Remember when all the Turks started rising up throughout Europe with the Turkish flags, and Erdogan said, I'm going to unleash a flood on your countries unless you do what I want? This is the problem with allowing foreign ideologies to come in and get entrenched in your country. So we can all talk about the glories of the Constitution, and I'm going to say, great. So we can flush ourselves down the toilet as foreign adversaries and interests that are opposed to ours come in and start changing the shape of our country in ways we don't like. And now, what do we have? with all due respect to Ro Khanna, I think he's a good dude. I think he's wrong. I believe that he's morally correct of his own worldview to fight for what he's fighting for as it pertains to immigration. Why? He is the children of immigrants. I believe he's an American citizen. I believe he was born here.
Well, I agree with you on immigration.
But let me tell you about Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna is, I believe his parents were immigrants and he was born here. Mm-hmm. He's a very nice guy. He's reasonable. He tries to communicate, and I can respect that. But because of where he comes from, his moral worldview is antithetical to the American moral tradition. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm not saying that he's, doing anything criminal. I'm saying his moral worldview is correct based upon where he comes from. He says, my parents were immigrants. My parents fought hard to come to this country. I understand what they want and why they want it. I'm going to fight for those values. Well, I was born in America with multiple generations going back hundreds of years, save my grandmother who came from Korea. I have all of these family members coming hundreds of years who fought in a Revolutionary War, who fought in a Civil War, and whose moral traditions have landed with me. And so what I say is, I understand, Ro, why you want to fight for illegal immigrants, but you came to this country, your parents came here, and you are now a citizen. You have access to everything we offer you because we are nice, we are good people. But when you start advocating for non-citizens, people not from this country, this creates two worldviews that are at odds with each other, and there's no off-ramp. People in this country who are saying, if you're not a citizen, so what? You can live here. And what ends up happening? You get, whether it's whatever anyone wants to say about the Haitians, you get reports from the locals that they were eating cats. Is it wrong to eat cats? Well, people in America don't take kindly to that, but in Haiti, they do eat cat. You see, there's a cultural clash. In Dearborn, Michigan, you get reports of female genital mutilation. Well, a lot of people don't take kindly to that. You get, in the Somali community in Minnesota, similar stories. So the people who are born and bred and raised in America, who are sitting beneath trees their ancestors planted, our focus on what we are going to build for this country is rooted in a long-standing American tradition. We all know the lesson of the Native Americans. The left can bring it up all they want. We get it. Colonization destroys civilizations and communities and all that stuff. We don't want that to happen to us. The simple version is this. If we prioritize the speech rights of non-citizens and people who are guests in this country, if we prioritize the rights of illegal immigrants, this country will evaporate.
I don't think you need to prioritize their rights. You just got to protect them.
No, I agree with you on that, Tim. But my thing is, she's legally here. She's making speech not even against America, rather Israel, and she's being deported for that. Like,
I get it, but
guys,
it doesn't change.
She's threatening our trade routes in the Middle East with.
Sorry, you're going to say something.
Well, look, we don't protect all rights for foreign people that are here. You can't buy a gun if you're not an American citizen. So the idea that we protect all rights, and the Supreme Court
as a green card holder,
Supreme Court has said that the Second Amendment is not a second class.
I'm just going to say this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like it's a super chat from this dude, Blackest Panther, saying, "Why are you, Tim? You're logically inconsistent. Why are you more likely to be deported for burning an Israeli flag than an American flag?" Yo, I don't care about your retarded obsession with Israel.
Yeah, guys, look. When is America ever not dependent on their foreign affairs, their foreign alliances, their foreign policy not to maintain global economic supremacy, global supremacy on the world stage? When has that ever happened in America's history? Never. When have they not ever depended on foreigners, foreign nationals coming to America, enjoying the constitutional rights, right, like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, where they don't necessarily might not enjoy it where they're living at, coming here and contributing to the growth of America, right? And when has that ever happened? Never. America's built off of these people, these foreign nationals with these student visas, these scientists, and I'm talking about good people coming in here. I'm not talking about having gang members and all these other individuals coming. I'm talking about real good, solid people. Like this woman was a student that wrote an anti-war op-ed, and she had her student visa revoked. She was an engineering student, okay, simply because she wrote an anti-war op-ed, right? And now this clown here is talking about, oh, well, we have to pick and choose when we want to use the First Amendment rights. People with student visas, foreigners have the same rights, regardless. I mean, yeah, there might be certain scenarios where if they're like, alluding to like, hey, yeah, we have to support Hamas, or we have to support like a foreign adversary that the U.S. might not like, then there's grounds for deportation. But that was never the case with these people. This is a case of Trump being desperate, okay, picking whoever he can pick to deport, so that way he could keep his base, for supporting him and stuff like that, because now everybody's kind of turning their back away from him because the first 100 days were a disaster. Even staunch supporters have been like, dude, this guy's not, he hasn't fulfilled any of the promises that he campaigned on, right? And why do you think America's so bent-ho on supporting Israel, supporting the Saudi Arabians, all these people? Because that's how they maintain their supremacy, their hegemony over the Middle East, their hegemony over East Asia, their hegemony over Europe. If they lose that, America's not that global superpower that we once knew it was, right? It'll be China or Russia, idiot. So when we come over here and say, hey, when a foreign national comes over here and says, hey, I don't think it's a good idea to go to another 20-year war with a Middle Eastern country, right, which would distract us away from what's going on in East Asia, the biggest adversary, China, because China is like flying in military equipment to all the Middle Eastern adversaries of the U.S. now. They're flying in. They don't give a rat's ass anymore, man. They just landed in Beirut, Egypt, Iran. They're dropping off military equipment, guys, because China's really they're scared. They're really afraid of what's going to happen with these tariffs, because if Apple and these companies pull out and they'd be like, hey, we're going to go, we're going to have India as our main hub now. China is going to be in a world of shit. So someone came and said, hey, I don't think it's a good idea to go to war with Iran when we can negotiate with them, because the only person that would benefit from going to war with Iran is probably Israel, right, and Saudi Arabia, which were behind 9/11. I don't think it's a good idea. This guy is saying, oh, well, we should deport him because you're a guest and you can't speak out against. Dude, cut the fucking shit, dude. This guy's an apologist. Let me tell you something. This guy's a Weasley apologist, undercover Zionist. Okay? That's what this guy is. He's a Weasley Israeli apologist, undercover Zionist. He likes the fact that we support Israel. He's not going to say it on air because he's going to lose all his MAGA supporters. But this is the biggest turnoff with the MAGA movement too. Is you got people like this clown who will sit there and not call a spade, not call the elephant in the room, like an Alex Jones type of guy.